Afternoon, friends. Today's the day. The time is finally here. I've got the 48WL engine cases back together. Flywheels are in, connecting rods are in, end plate set. Now we're ready to start reassembly. Got all the parts cleaned, got everything kind of laid out in front of me. I've got my book. Well, the book we're actually working out of today is the 45 Operation and Maintenance Manual. I don't know the part number on this, unfortunately, but it's something I bought offline. Bought it with a bunch of different 45 restoration books, and that's the one I'll actually be using today. The pictures are really clear in that book, and that's the one I'm going to utilize. Anyhow, I'm going to move the camera around, and we're going to get started on this project. Hopefully the angle isn't that bad, and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing. I've gone ahead and installed the screen here, and I do have it pinned in place, and I have some of the aluminum peened over, and I actually filled this because it was drilled out pretty big with some orange gasket maker. So hopefully that will help to, keep everything sealed in there. I do also have some Lucas assembly lube that I'll be using to kind of fit these parts together. We're going to go ahead and assemble the drive assembly here, try to get some of this stuff lubed up and floating in here nicely. From what I'm seeing in the book, the mark here needs to be up, and I also need to line up this sight window in the back to make sure everything's right and make sure that the rods are at top dead center. So I'm going to go ahead and check that really fast because I'm not sure if I'm there. I don't believe I am. Right now I'm currently at top dead center. I'm going to check and see what this looks like on this end. Looks like I'm a little bit off with that line, but I'm sure I've moved this a little bit. It looks like the mark on this gear here faces off to a 45-degree angle. That doesn't work either. I've gone ahead with my oil pump, and I do have the sight window here off to the left, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the gasket in place. And with the gasket in place, I'm going to go ahead and assemble this, or insert it into the hole here. I think what I'm going to do is put a little assembly lube onto that as well. So I want these gears to work nice together. I want everything to function nicely. I don't want a whole lot of resistance. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure in, push this gear in right here. We're measuring to 5/16, and if the face of this gear hits 5/16, and that opens all the way, then we're set. Unfortunately, I do not have it set properly, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these out right now. I'm going to change where this is at. Reinstall that conical gear. currently one tooth off, so I'm going to unassemble this one more time. I'm going to back this up one. Perfect. So what I'm measuring is the face of this gear right here. When you push it against the spring, it should have 5/16 of an inch from the face of this gear to the face of the case here. And what that does, that tells you that the scavenger pump is open all the way and it's with top dead center. So it's timed perfectly. That way, as the engine rotates, this moves as it should and it's scavenging oil just like it should. So now that I have that set, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find me, and I'm going to set this down actually. I was going to get an engine stand, but I don't think that I need one. So I'm going to set that down. Now to install all of the cam gears. Now I've gone ahead and I worked with a friend of mine and we've got these set up and shimmed just the way they should, so they have the proper amount of end play, and I've got shims in the right location to the right parameters. So I'm going to go ahead and start setting gears in place. I'm going to lubricate them a little bit so they slide in and then move nice and easily. We'll start with the oil pump gear first. So I have gone ahead and followed the book, and I'm looking at the lines here, and I'm not sure if I have this correct. Obviously, as you can see, this one's a little lower on this cam than this cam. This one is not straight like it shows. This one's a little higher. This one's a little lower. But if I move this one, it's one notch above. If I move this one, it's one notch below. I am at top dead center in the window, so I'm not exactly sure what I've got going on here. I'm not sure if that's 100% right. I guess I'll have to figure that part out. Morning, friends. New day in the shop here. Back to working on the 48WL. I ran into some timing issues the other day. I've read through all my manuals, did a bunch of research online, talked to a few people, and I was running into lining up the timing marks on the timing gears. And in the manual, I don't see the information that shows how to do that properly to get everything to line up. So through a few conversations with folks online and friends that I've met along the way, I have found that you actually have to move things around in here to make this work. And I need to show you what I mean by that, because it's a mess. It's not something that you run into in the book or find a clear-cut answer on how this actually works. So let me move the camera and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So when you set your scavenger pump to top dead center, when you push this in to its 5/16 mark and it's where it's properly supposed to ride, the engine is at top dead center. Now, in order to time this properly, you actually have to back the engine up just a slight bit. So this timing mark here aligns with the rest of the gears. I assumed that this needed to be at top dead center too with this, and everything else needed to be that way. But from conversations, I have found that this needs to back up just a little bit. So this timing mark on the pinion shaft here lines up with the timing mark on cam number 2 to line up with cam 1 3 and 4, so everything works. So now that I have this set properly, I'm going to go ahead and install these cams here the right way and then show you guys how it all lines up. So I've gone ahead and backed that pinion shaft up to the top dead center mark. I'm going to grab a little more assembly lube. I do have a healthy amount on there, and right now I'm just putting it on the lobes, or actually the spots that ride inside the bushings. Now this one has 3 marks. So there's this mark here, and this mark here. This goes to cam 1, this goes to your pinion shaft, and this goes to cam 3. So we're going to line those up. And those are in line now. Next, I will need cam 3, and that has to line up with the line here. And I know I'm going to have to lift this up just a little bit to get it out of the way, to get this in place properly. So now that lines up. Now I've got cam number 4 here. Give it a little more assembly lube. There's a timing mark here, and that has to line up with that timing mark. All right, let me move you guys in so you can see that these marks all line up. Now in looking at the cam chest here, you can see the timing mark between cam 1 and cam 2 lines up, between cam 2 and the pinion shaft, cam 2, cam 3, cam 3, cam 4. And that was just based on backing the engine up a little bit off of top dead center to get everything to line up the way it shows in the manual. So now everything is where it should be. If you look, if I rotate these just a little bit, everything's playing real nicely in there. And in my opinion, it's the right spots for these pieces to be in. Just based on looking at the book, if we look at the manual here, and it shows those gears all in line, and it shows that's kind of how they go. So I believe, in my opinion, this is all timed now the way it should be. Now that we're at this point, I've got one more bushing to put on the face here. So that's this little guy here. I should be able to slip that on perfectly. Now it's in spot. I didn't put that on to begin with because I couldn't see the timing marks and I didn't want to misalign this. So I left that off. So this one's actually in place now, and I probably should put a little assembly lube on there just to hold it. So we'll put a little on the face of this cam here. Stuff's a little sticky and it kind of helps hold things in place. So I'll push that down. Now that's in place. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lube these as well. And a lot of this stuff I probably should have lubed a little more than I did. I don't know if there's a proper amount, if I'm being too liberal with it, not liberal enough. You know, sometimes I wonder about that, if I'm just not using enough on this. I know I didn't put any really on the cams either, so I will do that a little bit now. Now for the idler gear here, unfortunately I do not have the screw and the washer for this. I've got parts on order for this again, and I'm waiting for those. They have shipped, I'm just waiting for them to come in. So for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cover on and put a couple of the screws in just to retain this. Now I'm not putting the screws all the way in as tight as they should be, because I don't want to, you know, stretch the threads and risk ruining something. I want those to be tight. I want them to work well. So we'll put the gasket on. We'll go ahead and slide the cover on. One of the things I should mention too, on these dowel pins, a lot of guys you'll see are hammering these covers on and off. And these dowel pins do get rusty. So all these dowel pins have been sanded down, and actually the pinholes, the dowel pin holes on the cover have been machined out a little bit. They've been oversized just a little bit so this will slide on nicely. The biggest thing is you want this cover to come on and off easily, because you're going to take it on and off a bunch of times in fitting these things and making changes and building this, you know, setting shims and backlash and all that good stuff. You're going to remove this cover quite a few times. Also, the surfaces on the face here and here have been decked. So these are matched surfaces. And you can kind of see where the high and low spots are on this. Maybe the camera's picking that up, maybe it's not. But this has been cleaned up and flattened as much as possible too to match this surface here. And I'm actually going to add a little assembly lube inside of here as well, just to lubricate everything. That way it's one less, you know, friction point. Now I want to mention on this engine I did not replace any of the bushings in the cover here. These things all came out looking good and were measured, and everything is in the right tolerance. So none of these things were replaced. I'm just going to run them as they were. I just wanted to make mention of that. So now we'll go ahead and slide the cover back on. And I know I'm going to take this thing off one more time when I get the rest of the parts for the inside here. I'm going to put these screws in for now, just placing them in place. I know that one doesn't go there, I don't know why I stuck it in there. And I'm not going to tighten these all the way. I'm just going to put them in place just to kind of hold everything in place for now, just so I can rotate the engine around and see that everything is playing nicely inside the cam chest. Some of these I'll snug a little further than others. I just want to thread some of these in a little bit just so they're in there and they won't get lost. Also, it's a good practice if you have not run a tap across the threads inside the cases. You should do that as well. These things get dirty. Obviously this engine's been apart, and it's been apart for a while, so it had grime inside of it and grit and whatnot. So after I cleaned these out, they were then, you know, I had a dye or a tap run through these just to clean up the threads and make everything play really nicely together. All of the threads on this have been gone over either with a tap or a dye based on its location. The only spot that did not get a dye is the top. Those need to be done yet. All right, we're gonna rotate the engine around and see that it's playing nicely in here. As you can see, I'm just gently holding the rods and everything is rotating around very, very nicely. I don't feel any flat spots. I don't feel any places where it's hanging up. I'm not having to force the engine around. It's running loose, which is good. It's running very nicely. I don't feel any slop or any hang-ups. So in my opinion, this thing is ready for the rest of the parts. The next steps will be to install the lifter blocks, lifters, I do have the cylinders all set. The cylinder base nuts are on order. I've got a lot of hardware on order. So right now I can't really install anything else because I am waiting on hardware. I need the correct hardware for the lifter blocks. I do have the complete gasket kit. I'm waiting on the hardware for the oil pump here. I've got a few other things on order too, and I'm waiting on those. So as I wait on those, this is kind of where the video ends for today. Well friends, I hope that this video was helpful. I hope this gave you some good insight on how to time the engine, install the cams, what to do with the cam chest, cam cover, and everything inside of there, and it gave you some answers. I know for me, I wasn't finding the right information out there easily, so I needed to backtrack a little bit and take some time to do research, talk to people, and then figure out what way to go with this, because I was trying to time this engine off of the scavenger pump being at top dead center. And being that the scavenger pump was at top dead center, the timing marks weren't completely lining up the way they should. I could line up all of the cams the way they should, but I couldn't get that one to line up enough. And I was afraid to back that up, thinking that, well, I'm taking the engine off top dead center, all of these things need to be put in at top dead center. I was incorrect there. It's something I had to learn, so I did. And I wanted to share that with you all in this video, just so you can kind of see, the right direction to go. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of great people to talk to, and sometimes, that information you kind of have to dig for. Hopefully this video helps you guys out with that. Well, friends, that's it for me today. If you liked the video, give her a thumbs up, give it a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. My analytics are still showing that I think 90% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed. Help me out, help this channel out, help it to grow. As a subscriber, you help me to get my name out there further, to get this page out there further, and to continue advertising for me. And I really appreciate, the folks that have subscribed. Very, very grateful for that. So if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. Help my page, help me grow, help me to continue this YouTube endeavor that I'm enjoying. I'm having fun with it. I've got a lot of great things in the lineup right now. I've got another project coming in the door pretty quick here. I've got a deal I've worked out, so I'll be showing you guys that in the next couple of days. I've got parts on order for the 48WL. I've got a deadline on this thing for this year. I want this thing running and riding this summer. I've got a show that I've committed this thing to, so I'm trying to get this thing done. So I'm hoping to kind of hammer down and get the bugs and the kinks worked out. As always, friends, I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate you following along. I appreciate, the conversations that we've had, through YouTube and outside of YouTube. I've met some of you guys, not in person, but over the phone, which has been kind of cool. A lot of folks have bought things, from eBay, because they see me on YouTube and they see that I'm an eBay seller, and, I'm grateful for that. Anyway, friends, I appreciate you all. Take care. We'll see you next time.